I'm not sure if that was like meant to be there or if that was a Jim Carrey moment of being like, "Hey, extra, can I run over you? Are you cool with this? Like, can we try this?" And then that just I really hope that that's what it was of like Jim Carrey just going up to one of them being like, "Hey, is it okay if I run over you? Can we try that?"
Yeah, you'd hope he'd ask, but maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I wouldn't be bothered if Jim Carrey spear tackled me. I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, hey Jim Carrey, you know what? Let's go to Australia. Let's spear tackle it. Let's spear tackle Adam. We
Yeah,
won't even tell him that we're coming. We'll just find him. What's poppin', y'all? Welcome to Post Finale. I'm your host, Ankit Madhira. I'm an actor and a musician who hasn't seen a lot of films, so to make my friends happy and potentially provide a new perspective on some popular films, I'm on a quest to change that. I'm never on this quest alone, however. This week I am joined by writer and director and my friend, Adam Deer. Adam, how you doing? How's it going?
hey, mate. Hey, Ankit. Yeah, great, man. Thanks so much for inviting me on. Should be fun.
Yeah, of course, of course. We met when you were doing your masters up at East, and I was still up there as well. So, but it's been almost a year since I've seen you.
Yeah, it was probably I left England in March 2023, so
March.
not even that long, but it just
So not
feels
even that long.
probably
It's
ages.
been less than a year, but it feels like it's been long
Yeah,
time since I've seen you. I mean, we've texted back and forth and stuff, but nah,
yeah, yeah,
I'm really excited that you're here, that you're on. When I was starting this project back in like April, you were like, "Oh, this sounds like a really cool idea." So I was like, "Hold on, like I
yeah.
know I love having conversations with you." And you said that The Truman Show is one of your favorite films. Do you remember when you first saw it? Like, what were your first thoughts? What drew you to this film originally?
Uh, it's funny because the main thing I can remember is seeing it being talked about on Oprah, which is not a show that I usually watch, but I do remember that they were talking about. And I've been a big Jim Carrey fan, forever. I remember watching Ace Ventura: Pet Detective on TV at my friend's house and just rolling on the ground, losing it. So I was always into him and following his career. And so when I heard this was coming out, and it wasn't a out and out crazy comedy, it was more of a drama. There was quite a lot of talk about it in the media in terms of, could he do it? Is he the right cast? Blah, blah, blah. And so I was interested in it already leading up to it. But yeah, I can't remember. Goodness, first seeing it, given it is one of my favorites. I mean, I basically just when it came out, I'd seen it and I've watched it. I don't know, dozens of times. Uh,
Fair,
so
fair.
yeah, and it was just a big Jim Carrey fan, and I was like, got to check this movie out. So I did.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I've anything I've ever seen Jim Carrey in, I've enjoyed. Granted, it's not a lot, but it's just because I don't watch a lot of films. But
Yeah, yeah,
I think I've seen bits of Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Like, I know that's like one of his big breakout films. So I think I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I don't think I've ever seen it like all in one sitting or even the way that I watch it for this show, where, it's not necessarily in one sitting, but it's dissected and, in depth because I can't tell you fully what happens, but I know a little bit of what happens in that one. But yeah, I absolutely love Jim Carrey. I think he's a fantastic actor, and you know, I know that he just retired earlier this year as well. For context to the listeners, we're recording this in the last week of 2023, so technically, when this comes out, it's no longer this year, but it's this year. So but yeah, I definitely am really excited to continue talking about this film. I was really enjoying it going through, just for context in case people have forgotten, and for you, Adam, on what my prediction is on what I think is happening in the film. Pretty much, I got it right that he realizes that something's wrong after he saw his dad get ushered away and everything. And he's kind of put together that something's up. So I still think that what's happening is that he's going to come up with a clever way to break out of New Haven, and not New Haven, Sea Haven. He's in
see
Sea
heaven,
Haven.
see heaven.
Sea Haven. So he's going to come up with some clever way to break out of there. And I think that like he's gonna try a few different things, but it's gonna fail. And then the people on the outside, so in the real world, not Sea Haven, but in the real world, are gonna sympathize with him and try to sneak him clues on how to like potentially break out of Sea Haven. And I think eventually he's going to break out. He's gonna go meet up with Sylvia, and he's going to be able to start this new life in peace. And I think that the day that he's going to break out is like technically his birthday. So I did the math in a previous episode and realized he's very close to his 30th birthday. It's like 29.8283 days or something like that. So we're very, very
Very
close
specific.
to his 30th
Yeah.
birthday. Well, I got curious because they started like listing the dates, and I was like, okay, like how long is this actually? Because like you've listed it's running for day 10,800 or whatever it was. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's like they've listed that, so it's just like, okay, what is that in terms of a human life? So I just got
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah. Yeah, because
But
it's leading up to the 30th anniversary of the show. So
of the
yeah, I'm
show,
assuming it. So
it
it's
makes
yeah, and it
sense.
started at his birth. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
we definitely learn a lot more. And where we left off last week was that he has to have it out with Meryl. And that's where we're going to pick up. So we're back with the neighbor and his Dalmatian, and Meryl's coming back home. And they're all very tentatively looking into the car where Truman is just sitting there. And Meryl asks if he's okay. And Truman gestures for her to get into the car. And I love how the neighbor like very rarely speaks, and his job is to just always take out the trash. Like he's always taking out the bins. That's it. That's all he does. I don't think I've ever seen him do anything other than take out the bins. And I'm just like, how much trash do you have? And his bin is always empty. Like there's nothing in the bin ever.
Well,
It's
and that's
just
but it's all yeah. It's just because that's the whole life they've known. You know what's normal. I mean,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
it's just yeah. So, but
a
it is
hundred
for us
percent.
as a viewer. It's like, what the heck is happening? But that's
Yeah,
just
I
yeah,
mean,
normal to him.
I do think this film leads itself a bit more into my ridiculousness as well in watching it, because I notice silly things sometimes. And it's just like, this film, because you're watching a TV show technically, I think like it fits that where like you understand that sometimes like things don't necessarily always make sense, but they need like a camera angle or they need the extra to be doing something random so that they can get Truman to react a certain way, which is a whole thing
Yeah.
and a whole problem in morals. But we can get to that later. So Truman tells her to look in the rear view, and he predicts that in just a moment they're going to see a lady on a red bike, followed by a man with some flowers and a Volkswagen Beetle with a dented fender. And Meryl tries to dismiss this, and Truman's like, no, 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 you have to look. And we see the lady, we see the flower boy, and there's no car. So Meryl says that it's just silly, and just as she says that it's silly, the car drives by, and Truman is ecstatic, and he is thrilled. And honestly, I feel the exact same way when I predict something right on this podcast because it happens very rarely.
Yeah, I mean it leads into such a fun scene. So yeah, it's a really nice moment.
It's a really nice build up to then this scene that we're about to get into that just it is so encapsulating and like you just want to know. And I don't know, for me throughout this scene that we're about to talk about, I was 100% on Truman's side. I don't know about you. If you like, how did you
Yeah,
feel?
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
we enjoy the ride, but we're because it's that unrestricted narrative where we know more than he does. We're just sort of excited to see what he discovers and how he uncovers the truth. So no, we're definitely I was on his side.
Yeah. So Meryl's very uncomfortable, and immediately my notes. I mean, I've discussed this in the past, but I'm just like, I don't like her. I don't like Meryl. I don't mind Marlon. I
Yeah,
don't like Meryl.
and I think it's because it's not even as you go through the film. It's not that her character is not a nice person, but the actress isn't a very nice person, and so that's sort of the sense you get. I think that makes it worse, or made it worse for me, is that I just don't like the not Laura Linney, but I mean
Like the
the
actress
the,
in
the actress playing the actor.
the
Yeah,
world. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I think her
um,
character's called Hannah, but she plays Meryl.
yeah, I
And
think so.
yeah,
That sounds right.
so
But
um,
yeah,
yeah, so I
definitely.
always found
Like,
her a bit grating, just the actor playing the actor. Yeah,
mhm. Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
she's a very interesting character, and we learn a lot about her in this scene. So Truman asks if she wants to know how he did that, and he reveals that they're on a loop. They just go around and around and around. Meryl's trying to change the conversation and says that, "Hey, I invited, words are hard, but I invited Rita and Marlon over for a barbecue on Sunday." First of all, wow, words are really hard today. First of all, I'm
Just
doing
creating your own
great.
language here today.
Yeah, I'm creating a new language on this show. Here we go.
Yeah.
So, first of all, we know Marlon. We love Marlon. Rita has never been mentioned. Who is Rita? Why do we care about Rita? Like, when did Marlon suddenly get a wife?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what's cool about it. They can just sort of invent and create things and add things in, and we just,
Yeah,
Truman just takes it as face value, and so we do as well.
I mean, I'm assuming that Rita has been around for a bit in the world of Sea Haven, but, you know,
Mm,
she just hasn't shown up in what we have seen as viewers in the film. But
yeah, yeah.
Truman says that he won't be here on Sunday, and Meryl keeps going on, and Truman asks if she's even listening to a word that he is saying. And Meryl says that you're just upset because you want to go to Fiji. Isn't that it? And you know what? Go and save for a few months and go. And then she's like, I'm going to go take a shower. I hate her so much. And
Is
Truman.
this the scene when they're in the kitchen? Is this the kitchen one?
No, no, no. They're still in the car. They haven't left the
Oh,
car
this is
yet.
in the casting. Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, they're still in the car. They haven't left the car. We have a whole sequence in the car. So Truman, just as she's about to try to get out, he locks the doors and says, "Let's go now." And in my notes, I'm just like, "Yes, Truman, do it." He's not going anywhere. I know that he's not going anywhere, but I want him to.
Yeah.
I want him to leave so bad. And he's like, "Let's go now. Why wait? Early bird gathers no moss. Rolling stone catches the worm, right?" Am I mistaken? Or are those usually the other way around?
Wait, what? What did you say?
so so he says in the film, he says, early bird gathers no moss. Rolling stone catches the worm.
Yeah, yeah. He's just swapped those around. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought. I was like, isn't the phrase usually early bird catches the worm and rolling stone gathers no moss?
And I think it's in part he's starting to have play with reality in a sense. It reflects, what's happening. It's starting a breakdown of the fabric of his whole life. So you're just starting to, yeah,
Yeah,
change language as
definitely.
well.
And I think it ties back into what he said earlier to Marlon, where he says, the only thing that can't be predicted is me and my unpredictability, or something along those lines. So, he's being so unpredictable, where he knows what the real phrase is. Otherwise, he can't so consciously change them back and forth. Like, he knows what the
Yeah.
phrase is, but he's able to change it, and it's just showing that unpredictability in a very subtle way. And I think Jim Carrey, I mean, he plays it beautifully. This entire scene, he plays it beautifully and
Mm.
does a very good job of going between kind of like the I'm going insane, kind of my world is unraveling and falling apart, but I'm also kind of keeping it together deal, where he's like, I'm in control now.
Yeah, absolutely. He starts to get some agency. But yeah, you're completely right. He's plays that very well. It's incredibly difficult to walk that line
Mm-hmm.
of kind of crazy but sane.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah.
mean, just as an actor, it's incredibly difficult to walk that line, and I think he does it very, very well, especially in this scene and the scenes to follow. But like, you really start seeing it pick up now, because now is when, like, he starts being more eccentric, more, I guess, what people think of as Jim Carrey, where he's this character that's almost larger
Mm,
than life kind of deal.
mm.
So Meryl looks very uncomfortable, and I'm like, it's because you don't actually love Truman. And
Yeah. I
Truman
do feel for
drives.
it in a way though, because imagine if you're this person, you're just kind of trapped in this marriage
I
of,
do, I
but she's
do
also
feel for
signed a
her.
contract and
Yeah, I do feel for her, but then I also don't, and I talk about it a little later, but like, we can talk about it now. I had it in my notes later. She literally says at the beginning of the film that it is a blessed life, that she is so thankful for this life. So I don't really
yeah,
feel that bad for her.
yeah. Well, it's a lot of to me, it's a lot of virtue signaling. She's
Yeah,
just like, oh, I'm just such this wonderful person that I do this, but I'm so blessed, and I'm just look how wonderful I am, just married to this guy that I don't even love, and but it's just all for the art. That's the kind of
yeah,
sense that I get that she is really just shallow and yeah, just goes runs off virtue signaling.
yeah. Like, Heather as a person is just a very shallow human being.
Yeah,
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 definitely. So,
yeah.
no, sorry, not Heather, Hannah. Her name is Hannah.
Yeah,
Hannah playing Meryl. There are a lot of names to
yeah,
keep track of in
yeah,
this film.
yeah.
So, yeah, so Meryl looks very uncomfortable, and Truman starts driving, and he starts driving in a circle around a roundabout. And Meryl's very nervous, asking, "Where are you going?" And Truman's like, "I'm being spontaneous." And he's yelling this out the window. And I'm just like, I am here for off the rails Truman. Also, Jim Carrey's doing great. So I'm here for
Yeah.
it. I don't know what's gonna happen next. Let's find out. So Truman says, "You know what? Forget Fiji. We can't drive to Fiji." And Meryl's like, "You're right." And so he's like, "All right, let's go to Atlantic City." And Meryl's like, "But you hate gambling." Truman agrees. And then she's like, "Why do you want to go there?" And Truman's response is fantastic. And he just goes, "Because I've never been there. That's why people go places, isn't it?" He's got a very valid point.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
that's it is great then because we're excited because we also know who Jim Carrey is as an actor. We're excited to see how he becomes more and more spontaneous and unpredictable. So
mhm.
there is that element too that's really fun. Once they're like, "Yeah, let's just do it." We're like, "What's he going to do next?" Because he's can just be so. We've seen almost the opposite of the Jim Carrey that we know up until this point. So we're really like, when's he gonna kind of be released,
Yeah,
so to
when are
speak.
we gonna get kind of the Robin Williams, Jim Carrey effect a little bit, where it's like, all right, like, I'm sure that based on the script they've done, 4 or 5 takes of whatever the script says, but then,
Mm,
all right, like, now it's time for the 20, 30 takes of just improv and seeing what's going to happen, and
yeah,
figuring it out. And sometimes, like, that's better, sometimes it's not, like, it goes both
yeah.
ways. But we're starting to get into that realm.
I know in his contract he was allowed to do rewrites and stuff. So I
Oh, okay,
think,
for this film.
yeah. So I don't know how it
Okay.
went. It sounds like it might have been a bit tricky at first, but I think the director Peter Weir and him worked it out uh, along the way and managed to have a bit of fun. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, especially when, I think it's an effective thing if you have the time and you have the budget, right? And, someone wants to try some things. Let them try, because sometimes it doesn't necessarily always work, and you can always fall back on what has been written, what is on the script, and great. But sometimes when you're playing, and like, I find as an actor, sometimes when you're playing and, like, you're in the rehearsal room and you're just kind of letting loose and you're just trying something, and you don't necessarily always know if it's going to work, that's when the true beauty happens. So I mean, for example, I was doing a pantomime earlier this month, and we were doing a read through, and I had an old version of the script, which I didn't realize was an old version of the script when we were doing the first read through. So I showed up, I had my script printed and everything, and originally someone came in and was like, "I'm the little drummer boy," and then there was a song that was written in, and so I was waiting, but in the new version of the script, it was just like, there's no song, and I'm just supposed to say, cool. And I was just sitting there waiting, and nobody was saying anything. So I just go, isn't there supposed to be a song? And everyone just started laughing, and they're like, great, that's the new line in the
Oh,
show. Because it was just so sincere. Of just like, I was so confused. I was like, what is going on? Like, why is everyone just paused? Like, something's supposed to be happening. So like, even silly things like that, where one person has the wrong script because they printed it out a week earlier than the reading. Like, that was all it was. Like, I printed it out on Monday, and we were having our first rehearsal on like Saturday. So like, I just printed it out earlier in the week before the edits got made. So I just didn't have the fully updated version. But like, I do think, like, letting people play, sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But I mean, if you have the
yeah,
time,
absolutely.
let them play. So
I
yeah.
especially think in theatre. I do more theatre than film. Obviously, I love film, but yeah, definitely in theatre rehearsals, you need to. I mean, you're facilitating discovery, so you should be letting actors make offers and try things. Otherwise, it's kind of, to me, it's sort of, what's the point in having the actor if I'm just gonna point and say what to do, how I want every single thing, and that's good for some areas, and of course, knowing your directorial vision and where we're headed, but you're also having that confidence to let actors do their thing. And sometimes it can just be, probably more in film, it's just a peace of mind thing for the actor that they've been allowed to just have one more take or try something. You might not ever use it, but it's just giving the actor a bit of peace of mind knowing that they've been able to try a different angle. Um, but yeah, I mean, film budgets and stuff, it's hard to time. It's so much time you have
Oh
to get
yeah, I
through. So
mean, there's a very famous behind the scenes clip that I've seen a lot of Gary Oldman in the fifth Harry Potter film, in Order of the Phoenix, where he goes to the director and he's like, please, please, if we just have a little bit of time, I want to try one take where I just sock him in the face, like, just punch him. And it's just like, and then that's the clip that ends up getting used in the final cut of the
mm,
film. So it's just like, sometimes there's not time for it, but if you're able to, let them play. So,
yeah, yeah.
and some, yeah. Anyway, back to what's happening in the film. So, Meryl says that she's going to throw up. And I was like, let me guess. You're going to try to claim that you're pregnant with his baby to try to get him to stick around. He's not going to end up buying it. This is what I think is what she's going to try to do. Spoiler alert, she doesn't do this, but I thought she was going to try to play that card and try to say, I'm
Mm.
pregnant or something. So they pull out of the roundabout, which is an odd little roundabout with just like a gazebo in the middle of it. I'm not completely sure if that's normal in small towns in America, where I'm assuming we are.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of it's this weird echo of a 1950s. Yeah,
As someone who
we
lives in
certainly don't have
Australia,
them
is
here.
that common in small towns in America?
I mean, yeah, you're definitely going to be a better person to ask than me, but I imagine not.
I think it might have been like a common thing, like you said, back in, the 80s, the 90s,
Well,
when
it's a very
this came out.
50s throwback, the show. It's quite a 50s suburbia, 50s,
Okay.
60s kind of vibe. So I
Yeah.
don't know if it's an accurate reflection. It's kind of when you watch an Edward Scissorhands, that whole suburban, which if you haven't seen that, you got to see that too. But yeah, the suburbia is very weird, kind of. It's just a different era. It's just its own world. It reminds me of that a bit. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not what it is in modern 2023, I guess 2024 when this comes out, which is still weird to say, even though we're
yeah.
4 or 5 days away from it. So,
But if anyone has seen a gazebo in a roundabout, they need a comment.
Let us know. Yeah,
Please tell us your roundabout experience.
exactly. If you have a gazebo in a roundabout, we want to hear about it. If that's what's in your town, let us know. So
Yeah.
they pull out and they're blocked by other cars, and Truman points out that this is very odd. He's like, "Hey, this is beautifully synchronized, don't you
Yeah.
agree?"
Where did they all
And
come from? Yeah.
what where are they, why are they here? Meryl asks if he's blaming her for the traffic, and Truman's like, I don't know, should I? And Meryl's just
Yeah,
like,
I
let's
remember that.
go home. Truman agrees and says, you know what, it might be like this all the way to Atlantic City, let's go back. Then he starts driving in reverse, and immediately I'm like, we're not going back home. So they get back into the roundabout, and Truman misses the turnoff. And hey, look, they're not going home. He's changed his mind. What's New Orleans like this time of year? Mardi Gras. Woohoo! And I'm just like, yes, Truman, do it. And they head down the exact same road that they were just on. No cars. Magic. And Meryl says, let me out. You're not right in the head. You want to destroy yourself. Do it on your own. Just saying, this doesn't sound like a very loving wife or a good nurse.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like, toss the wife part out the window. She's not being a good nurse at this point.
Yeah, and there is that. I'm a bit lost where it is in the film, but he does go to the hospital where she
Yeah, it's
works.
right before this. It's right before
Okay,
this. And, you
because that
know,
scene is awesome as well. Like, yeah,
oh, that scene's
just showing
fantastic.
again that no one knows how to actually do their jobs. Fair enough. Um,
Marlon is the only one that seems to know how to do his job of try to calm down Truman.
yeah, but I mean, he just stocks vending machines, doesn't he?
He stocks vending machines and drinks beer. That's Marlon.
Yeah. So if he can't do that job properly, I don't know.
Yeah, if he can't keep Truman at bay a little bit, then
Yeah,
what's really the point of Marlon?
be a nurse or a doctor or something, a bit trickier.
Yeah. So Truman's like, no, I want some company. And then we're stuck at a bridge. And Meryl says that, you know what? I knew this would happen. You can't drive over water. Let's go home. You'll feel safe. And in my notes, in all caps, I'm like, drive over the water. Conquer your fear, Truman. Do
Yeah,
it.
it's like go for it. Don't listen to her.
And Truman, to his credit, comes up with a very ingenious plan. And again, I think this is where you see that unpredictability just bursting out of Truman, right? And as he asks for her hand, and like a trusting person, she gives it to him. And then Truman grabs her hand, puts it on the wheel, and says, drive, and hits the accelerator and closes his eyes. And I was like,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, because he agrees. He says, "You're right. I can't, but you can." And
Yeah.
yeah, then that kind of yeah, it was fun.
And I mean, the entire time he's just like, you can do it, Meryl, you can do it. And he just has his eyes closed, like driving down. And Meryl's yelling, telling him to brake and like stop, and that they're breaking the law. And I'm just like, you've done significantly worse. You've manipulated a human for 30 years. You've been a part of this. Also, what law are you breaking? Truman is the law. Like, you ain't breaking a law. You're fine.
Yeah,
I don't know. I have no sympathy for Meryl. She reminds me a bit of Janet in Rocky Horror Picture Show, where as I was watching Rocky Horror Picture Show, and if listeners you haven't listened to those episodes, it's before we started doing video, but go check out those episodes. They're still up and you can still listen to them. I hated Janet so passionately in Rocky Horror. Brad deserved so much better than her. But Meryl's reminding me of that, where I'm just like, I hate you so much. I don't want you around. You don't deserve Truman. You don't deserve this kind human being. Like,
and
you're
that
just a
it makes
terrible
great
person.
television, I guess. For the
Oh, it's
it works for the show.
fantastic television. I mean,
I
look,
mean, as soon as she's introduced into the story, she's annoying. Like immediately, no one wants her in the story. When there's that whole high school
Yeah, I mean,
scenes, and she's just kind of shoved into it. And you're like, go away.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like she literally trips and falls into Truman and is like, "Oh no, I broke my ankle." Like, and I'm just
I mean,
like,
she's just doing a job,
"Leave."
but there's just, as a character, we're like, just please go away. And then we're like, you're actually not a nice person as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I think,
yeah.
as a character, very interesting character to watch. As Hannah, I think the world has realized that she's not a kind person.
Mm.
So they make it over the bridge, and it's fantastic. And I'm like, yes, you have conquered your fear. Well done, Truman. I'm proud of you. And Truman's thrilled. He takes the wheel again. And honestly, it wasn't how I thought he would conquer his fear, but well done to him for thinking outside the box. Like he definitely thought outside the box on that one, um, and came up with a way.
Yeah, it just
So
shows that he's becoming more and more willing to break free.
yeah, it kind of
Uh,
shows like he's also becoming braver. He's willing to take a risk. He's willing to drive, and just I want to get out of here. He's truly showing that. And they pass a sign saying forest fire, warning, danger, turn back. Truman ignores this. And Meryll's like, what about the sign? And he just goes, they're exaggerating. We'll be fine. Just then, a fire starts on the road. Two things. One, that's not a forest fire. And two, the fire showed up 10 meters in front of his car out of thin air. How is he supposed to even think that it's supposed to be a real forest fire?
well, yeah, I mean, it all just keeps falling apart. They've got to do more and more ridiculous things to keep him contained. And by doing so, they're making it more obvious that the world he's lives in is fabricated.
A fake world. Yeah, it's a fabricated world. So Truman drives straight through the fire. Meryl thinks that they're on fire. They're not. It's just smoke. And Truman just laughs and continues driving. And this is where I made note of this, but credit to the camera work in this entire scene because they really make you feel like you're part of the ride in the car, almost like you're in the back seat or like you're a little figurine on the dashboard and you're watching all of this happen. Like, I might disagree with the whole premise of trapping someone in a fabricated world and against their will and all of that, but like, say what you will, they've gone through some great lengths to provide the real world with some fantastic shots. So like, well done to them. But, you know, morally messed up. In terms of television, great television.
Yeah. I mean, you could see why people would be addicted to the show.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I can tell why people would want to watch this, although I don't fully understand why they would want to watch him sleeping. So, and Steven was my guest right before this, and we were talking about the fact that like they could have given him any job in the world and they gave him the job as a man who sells insurance. Like, let him have a bit more of an interesting job.
Yeah, true. But it's all set up to create barriers in his mind. Just,
Hmm.
he's just they've created a person who lives in fear of going anywhere or doing
The
anything other
outside
than
world.
these exact things. Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
Like, geez, give the guy a little bit of a break, to do something.
Right? Give him a little bit of credit.
Yeah.
So Meryl asks, what are we going to do for money in New Orleans? And he's like, I'll have my Sea Haven bank card. Meryl asks if they're just going to eat into their savings. And then she tries to play the mother card, saying that she'll be worried. She's not sure how she's going to take it. And that's where I noticed in the back seat, they have like a gray seat. But then in the car, they have like this random piece of like red that's like plaid or something. Is that a pillow or is that just the design of the car?
Yeah. I'm trying to think that image. I don't know. I mean, there are cameras everywhere. It could be some kind of device, or it's just a
It could be
weird
some kind
car.
of device. Like, if it's a pillow in the car, that makes sense. If that's just the design of the car, it makes no sense. What car is designed like that? Who has designed a car with a random like red plaid piece in the middle of the back part of the chair? Like, I don't know. Listeners, if any of you have any thoughts on this, leave them in the comments. Shoot me a message because this is what I notice when I'm watching things.
Yeah.
So we hear sirens, and it's the Sea Haven nuclear power station. Of course it is. And the sign reads, "Clean, safe, economical, more power to you." And then we hear on the loudspeaker that it's a red alert, and it looks like there's a leak at the plant. The officer says that the whole area is being evacuated and there's no way around. He's really sorry. Meryl asks if she can do anything. And in all caps again, I'm just like, what in the world are you going to do? You are useless. You can't even keep it together around Truman. And like, your job is to keep your husband under wraps. You can't even do that. What use are you supposed to be at a nuclear power plant where apparently there's a leak?
Yeah. And what I've also thought with some of the actors, I mean, particularly uh, Meryl, is that their whole life has been in this place. I don't know what life skills they actually have, because she's just been playing this fake person. I don't know, you know what I mean? It's just this. Everyone's just tells you what to
Yeah.
do, tells you where to stand. Everything's done for you as well. Like I just was thinking about that. Do these people have any capacity to survive on their own? That they haven't necessarily had to become an adult in the way that other people have. So I suppose she's quite stunted as well.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you see it soon, but like, we haven't necessarily seen it yet, but like, we see it soon that like, what they're saying is also Kristoff speaking into an earpiece,
Mm,
telling them what to say. So, it's not even like, they have to come up with the improv on their own or anything. Like, they're literally being fed every line to say. Yes, they need to like be able to hold the emotions and stuff to say it, but they're literally spoon fed.
exactly.
So, I don't know. Yeah, so Truman says thanks, but the officer, says, "You're welcome, Truman." And that's when Truman realizes something's off because this officer has never met him before. Also, if the whole area is being evacuated and he's trying to leave the area, why can't he leave the area? It's not like he's trying to go into the plant. And added onto that, if it's the Sea Haven nuclear power plant, doesn't that mean that they should probably be evacuating the rest of Sea Haven as well? Because like, if it's truly a red alert, as bad as they're saying that it might be, then the town closest to the plant is in major danger, i.e., Chernobyl, Pripyat, etc. So like, why wouldn't you let them leave?
Yeah, exactly.
They're just trying to get him to turn around. I understand that that's all that they're trying to do, but like,
Yeah,
when you start thinking about it, it doesn't make sense of why they won't let him leave. I mean, it makes sense that they don't want him to leave Sea Haven, but like, if you're looking at it from a nuclear power plant perspective, right, and like from Truman's perspective, it doesn't make sense because
absolutely.
why
And then,
don't why don't you let him leave?
and you feel that he's close to. He's able to be reasoned with the officer there, and then until they say thanks, Truman. You feel that he was sort of
Yeah, like,
willing to maybe turn around or yeah.
or try something else and kind of be like, all right, I've got to try a different tactic to kind of break out of here. But yeah, that extra kind of botched it over there. Whoops.
Yeah.
he ain't getting hired again. Poor guy. He's now gonna have to go fend for himself
Yeah.
in the real world.
That was his only time in the show having a speaking line, and he
And
stuffed
he
it.
messed it up. I don't even know if he's gonna get another job after that. Oof.
What do those actors? You think those actors do after this show?
Like, after the show ends.
if it ends and then it's what are they? Do you think they'll get any other acting work?
If it ends, I think the extras might be able to. But also, like, I don't know. I don't think so.
Because
Because,
being
like,
an extra on Truman Show and look pretty good. It's probably like the show every actor wants to be on.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those shows where it's like, oh yeah, like I got to be on the Truman Show.
Yeah, and like, wow, what was it like?
Actually really weird. They made me stand still for like 20 minutes until they said go.
Yeah. Well, you could imagine that. I guess there is a pretty set route. There is that really set routine. That's the whole point of it. But
Mhm.
yeah, they're all just like waiting on standby, ready to go. But I don't think like Meryll's going to get any work. She probably doesn't want to.
No, I think Meryl's lost all possibility of getting work in the future. And I think Marlon might be able to still get work
Mm,
because even though, like, he does what he does in the show and whatnot, his scenes are genuine. And, like, I have enjoyed every single scene that he is in.
yeah,
And
yeah.
soon, probably in the next episode, we'll talk about, the moment where he makes a fool of himself. For listeners not looking at the video, I said make a fool of himself in air quotes. But we'll get to that soon. But yeah, I definitely think like I think he would be able to still get work. I think some of them would be able to get work, but I don't think Meryl would be able to again. But
Mm.
anyway, Truman's realized that something's off, and he gets out of the car and he starts jumping over the cars. And he bodies one of the people in a hazmat suit and then just runs into the woods. And I'm just
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
cool.
That was funny.
And
That's running around.
I'm not sure if that was like meant to be there or if that was a Jim Carrey moment of being like, "Hey, extra, can I run over you? Are you cool with this? Like, can we try this?" And then that just I really hope that that's what it was of like Jim Carrey just going up to one of them being like, "Hey, is it okay if I run over you? Can we try that?"
Yeah, you'd hope he'd ask, but maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I wouldn't be bothered if Jim Carrey spear tackled me. I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, hey Jim Carrey, you know what? Let's go to Australia. Let's spear tackle it. Let's spear tackle Adam. We
Yeah,
won't even tell him that we're coming. We'll just find him.
and I'll just whatever fee
So
you want, I'll just give it to charity or something to be spear tackled by Jim Carrey.
yeah. Honestly, he's retired from acting. He has the time now. So like,
Yeah,
Jim, I know that you probably will never hear this, but if you ever do, thanks for an amazing body of work.
he listens to every episode
Oh,
eagerly,
he's one
awaiting
of those
what's next.
loyal listeners. Eagerly awaiting.
Yeah, well, but you
But
never
not
know.
look.
He does a lot of
You
art
never
stuff
know.
now,
You
right?
never know.
He does a lot of art,
Yeah, he
painting, and
paints
yeah.
and draws, and it's something that he found comfort in. From my understanding, I don't try to speak for him, but from my understanding, in the few interviews that I've seen, he just said that like he started doing it. I think like later on in life too. It wasn't something that he necessarily did earlier, but it's just something that he picked up and he just really enjoyed it. So he's like, I'm just gonna do that. I've
Hmm.
made money. I am who I am. Like I don't need to necessarily make more and do more. Like I'm content. So I'm just gonna enjoy life and live life. And he did kind of leave the door open, I think, where he said, like, look, this is the end. But then I do think he did say, like, look, if someone comes to me with an incredible script, I might come back and do it. But
Yeah, I saw
I
that.
don't
Yeah.
plan on doing anything. That's what I thought I heard. I might be mistaken,
No,
but
that's what I
that's
got
my
from it.
understanding.
I think I know the interview you're talking
Okay,
about.
cool.
Yeah, it did sound like if it was an amazing script. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a very fair way to look at it. Like, he's done his body of work. He thinks that, like, there's nothing left for me to really do. But, someone, in 10 years might turn around and be like, hey, Jim, we know you're 70, but we've got this script that we think you would be great for. What do you think? He might read it and be like, let's do it. I want to be creative
Here's what I want to
in
see.
the world of acting.
I want to see Jim Carrey in his 70s doing Ace Ventura 3. That's what I want to see.
Okay.
That's my
Okay.
vision for the
Um,
future.
yeah. Great. Ace Ventura 3, he's training the next detective.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Can I be the next detective? I just want to work with Jim Carrey. That just sounds like fun.
Yeah,
I just want to meet the guy.
yeah.
So I haven't seen one or two, but I can be silly. So Anyway, he bodies this guy in a hazmat suit, runs into the woods. Meryll's yelling in the car for somebody to help and stop him. And she's yelling from inside of the car. Like, she doesn't even poke her head out the window or step out of the car so that she can be heard better. She's literally just still in her seatbelt going, Truman, come back! Like, you are so useless, Meryll.
Yeah.
So,
But it just reveals her as a person. Like, her as a person is crap.
oh,
Like, she has no ability to deal with anything.
100%.
Anyway.
Nothing. She can't deal with anything. We see a really cool shot as there's like a camera hidden in one of the like spray can thingies that these hazmat people have. I don't actually know what it's supposed to be, but like that's something that they're holding. And the camera's inside of that. It's a really cool shot. Like I said, this film has a lot of them. So I've tried to point out as many as I can as we go through. And Truman gets a very thick stick. He starts trying to fight off the people with the hazmat suits. He tells them to stay away, but he's finally grabbed and subdued and, tackled to the ground.
Was there anything weird with that stick? I remember it being, I don't know.
I think it was just a big stick.
It looked like a staff or something. I just remember something about it that it was a really intense stick.
I think it was just like an abnormally long stick. Like, I don't think it was a stick. I think it was a branch. Like a smaller branch almost, but like a thin, long branch. I think it might have been a branch.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was anything like special. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like I would have remembered if it was on fire or anything, and that would have been really cool. But I don't think that they were about to hand Truman a flaming stick.
I think I just made it in my mind that it was just more than it was. Yeah.
I would love for it to be more than it is.
Yeah, but anyway, he's swinging his stick around, and as you do,
he's swinging his stick around. He ends up gets tackled. He's subdued. We're off. We're back home. Meryll's thanking the officers for their help. They say he's lucky to be alive. Next time we're gonna have to file charges. And I just go, no, you won't.
Imagine Truman in jail.
Hey, I'm interested. It's a storyline we haven't necessarily seen.
Yeah, exactly. What's crazy? Yeah, I think there's so many options with this film, which is great because you just kind of, as an audience, you're just going, "Wow, where's it going to go?" Like it really could. There's so many options. It would have been quite hard to structure, I think, like as a writing and directing, because you could just do so many different, really interesting things. Anyway,
yeah, which makes me more confused on why they potentially just seem to want, like, not in terms of as you were writing the film, right? Like you were saying there's a bunch of rewrites that used to be dark, that kind of thing, right? Which I kind of want to see all of those rewrites. I wonder if they're out in the world, or you can hear the concepts, or if there are interviews, because I don't look up anything before watching the films. So
yeah, I think it was,
I wonder if there are like interviews or anything of people who worked on the film talking about those previous rights, like previous drafts.
Yeah, I think because the Andrew Niccol who wrote it was, it was really quite dark, and then I know that Peter Weir wanted it to be lighter and more, just a bit, drama, but just lighter, where it was kind of a heavier sci-fi vibe. I think before. I have a feeling it was about 15 rewrites. It was quite a lot of versions. And then
I mean, I believe it. Like you said, any decision could be taken in 5, 6, 7 different ways, because it's truly just someone's life, which I think makes it both easier to write about and harder to write about, because there's the truth of like, yeah, this is just what someone does in a day-to-day life. But then there's also the, but if that one thing happens, there are all these different ways that something could, end up. Kind of like that banana effect of, I think that's the right phrase, but the banana effect or something. No, banana effect sounds wrong.
When you buy too many bananas, things start to happen.
Things start to happen when you buy too many bananas. We don't know what things, but things. So, So the banana effect happens, because that's not what we're calling it, because I've forgotten the phrase. So, but like there's so many different options that you can get. And so, I'm not fully sure, but yeah, I would love to potentially see what some of those previous drafts, or find out. I might do some research and see if I can find anything, and
Yeah,
I'll let y'all know if I find anything, listeners.
yeah.
And listeners, if any of you know where to find it, send it over if I'm not able to find anything. Because again, I'm curious. I'm still at the very beginning of my career. I'm learning. I want to learn as much as I can. So,
It's a really cool
anyway.
writer, really cool. If you get to chance, because he wrote Gattaca. I don't know if you've seen that, but you should
I
check
haven't
it out.
even heard of Gattaca.
Yeah, it's got
Okay, I'll put
Ethan
it on the
Hawke and Jude
list.
Law. It was essentially
Ooh.
because he was meant to direct the Truman Show, but he hadn't directed before, and they thought, oh, this movie's too big for you, so they got Peter Weir, and then that same year, Andrew Niccol wrote and directed Gattaca, which is really cool sci-fi.
Okay,
But yeah, you should check it
cool.
out.
I'll check it out. Even if it's not for the show, I'll check it out. And
Yeah, I think it's here. Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman.
okay,
It's definitely
very,
worth
very
watching.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I sometimes when I watch a film just for fun, depending on the film, like sometimes I watch like just really dumb films and I don't really know
Yeah,
why I've even put them on. But
but it's a good film for critiquing, because there's so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
many
I mean,
elements to it.
sometimes like I'll just like jot down like quick notes, or I'll just jot down like, quick thoughts, and then I'll toss it up onto like Patreon or something, and it's like, hey, this is like what I'm thinking. I'm not doing this show in
Mm,
depth, and like, I just watched this one for leisure, but like here are my thoughts on this film. It's not necessarily as in depth of what I'm doing for the show, but like if you're curious, this is what I thought of this film. I didn't take any notes on it. I just sat and watched a film,
mm.
kind of deal. So I do that occasionally, when I actually watch a film for fun, which does
Like a normal
happen
person.
surprisingly enough.
Yeah.
Like a normal person. The way I watch films for this show, not the best way to watch a film. I don't recommend it because I pause every like 10 to 15 seconds, but
Yeah.
it's because I'm writing all of these notes down. So it's not necessarily like the best way to watch it, but let me tell you, I know a lot about some films now because I've seen them once, but I've watched them very in depth. So I know a lot about some films. Anyway, back to the Truman Show, because that's what we're talking about.
That's it.
So Meryl says that she wants to get help for Truman. He isn't well. Truman asks why she wants to have a baby with him when she can't stand him. Meryl says, this isn't true. Yes, it is. She then turns around, gives us the face of, I hate this, and then turns and says, why don't you let me fix you up some nice mocha drink? All natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mount Nicaragua, no artificial sweeteners. And I was like, aha, product placement.
Yeah.
And Truman asks, what is she talking about? Who is she talking to? And then she just continues going, I've tasted the other cocos. This tastes the best.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're not even listening to
Yeah.
Truman. Like,
It's this
you
crazy
have
robot.
completely lost any sense of being able to function. And she also just read what was on the can. Like, the only thing she didn't read that was straight off the can was that the can also said low fat, sugar free, and organic. Like, that's it. That's the only thing that she didn't read off the can. Everything else is just on the can. So,
Well, and it's yeah. One of the pictures of the Truman Show is that everything you see is for sale.
yeah,
So there's just this constant, if they're wearing a jumper, you can order it. If they're wearing these glasses or whatever. So I mean, you've probably discussed this already.
exactly. And at
Yeah.
this point, I didn't know that yet. So, like, I was like, I can see the product placement, but, like, why is it so up front and center? Like,
Right.
I didn't fully understand why it's so up front and center at this point. I was like, I'm just noticing when the product placement shows up.
It's this weird Stepford Wives kind of vibe. That just the robot,
Okay.
like she's an android or something. Like she's not a real person.
Yeah.
That thing. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So he asks. Yeah, he's
She
like,
isn't.
"Who are you
No, no, no.
talking to?
Yeah,
There's
so
nobody here."
he's like, who are you talking to? This has nothing to do with anything. Asks her to tell him what's going on. Meryl's freaking out because she's bad at her job and says that he's having a nervous breakdown. I think you're having a nervous breakdown. And Truman realizes that she is part of this. And we see that her brooch is actually a camera. And then, I was like, oh, how are they getting the camera shot of her freaking out? Like, what did they have on Truman that's a camera? But I wasn't able to pick it up. I'm sure that it's
Mm.
like embedded into his clothing somewhere, but I couldn't like point out what it was. Whereas on her clothing, I could kind of point out that the brooch was what was the camera angle. So I just couldn't point out on Truman
I
what the camera would have been.
think
But
his ring has one in it. I'm just
okay.
trying to remember. Yeah, I think it might be his wedding
Okay.
ring or something. Yeah, but I'm not 100%
Possible.
sure. I'm just trying to remember. But yeah, that's one of the fascinating things with there's just cameras in every different spot. And
There's
yeah, I just
cameras
love that scene.
everywhere.
The section from the car into the kitchen is one of my favorite parts of the whole
It's
film.
a incredible scene. And honestly, like as much as we're saying that Meryl is a terrible human being, great job by the actress. She
Yeah,
does a fantastic job. I'm
yeah.
not
Laura Linney's
sure
a
what her name
fantastic.
is.
Laura Linney. Yeah,
Laura Linney. Yeah, I mean, she does a great job delivering this scene. Like absolutely fantastic.
she's one of those
So,
actresses who's been just really or fantastic for decades. And it's not that she's underappreciated. I mean, maybe she is a bit, but she's just always really good. But she's not like, oh,
yeah.
the leading lady kind of vibe.
She's not
But she's
like
always been
the
very good.
big name, but she's always consistent.
Yeah, because she did really well in the Big C, and then she was in
Mhm.
Ozark as well. But she's been in heaps of films.
Okay.
Love Actually is the only one I can think of, but she's been in lots of other stuff.
Oh, is she the lead in Love
Well,
Actually?
she's one of because yeah, I mean, there's a lot of characters in that. There's about 10 or
I don't know. I
something.
haven't seen it.
Yeah, but she's there's lots of little parts, and they kind of all come together. But she is one of the
Okay, okay. So she's
characters.
one of
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Nice. I mean, she does a fantastic job. So
Mm,
what she ends up doing is she grabs some of these peelers and stuff, none of which actually seem sharp, but she points them at Truman and says that he is scaring her. And Truman says that Meryl is scaring him. I mean, fair. She has pointed deadly weapons.
yeah.
Deadly in
Everyone who's had
quotes.
a potato peeler pointed at you knows the fear.
It's
So
it's terrifying.
it's real.
So I was like, what is she gonna do? Dice him, slice him, peel him? Actually,
Yeah,
no, that's not what I said. That's what he said.
yeah. Oh,
He's
that's
like,
right.
what are
Yeah,
you gonna do?
he makes it into a commercial.
He's like, what are you gonna do? Dice me, slice me, peel me? um, and I was actually like, actually though, can she do anything, or is she just gonna lose her job if she does do anything? And I was like, she should anyway, because unlike Marlon, she can't actually keep it together. So like, let's be honest, this is probably like one of the last times we're seeing Meryl. Like, she should be
Yeah,
fired at this point. Like, she's bad at her job.
if you threaten to stab Truman, you're probably not gonna keep working. Yeah,
Yeah. So Truman grabs her. He pulls her into a headlock like position so that he can grab the utensils away from her. Meryl looks up the camera and yells, "Do something." Truman clocks this and he asks, "What? Who are you talking to?" Meryl tries to say that she didn't say anything and that she wasn't talking to anybody. She's trying to deny it. And she tries to run out of the house, but Truman stops her. Just then, there's a knock on the door, and it's Marlon with beer, and he's confused. Obviously, Marlon knows what's going on. He's been briefed on the situation he's about to walk into, but great job by Marlon. He's confused. When he walks in the door, he's like, "What? What is happening? I just showed up with beer. Like, what's going on?" And Meryl hugs Marlon and is sobbing, saying, "How can anyone expect me to carry on in these conditions? It's unprofessional." And I went on a beautiful tirade right here where I was like, "You knew this when you signed up for it, lady. It's unprofessional for what you did to him, that you've trapped him for his entire life.
yeah.
His entire life is a lie. You've been in on it. You're okay with this mountain of lies that you've helped build. Now that it's crumbling down, you want to be free and you want nothing to do with it. I have zero sympathy for you."
Yeah, and I think that's most viewers take that approach. Yeah, you just kind of
Yeah.
like, please go. I mean, she could have worked out a way to get out of the show. She really wanted to be out of it. I don't know what kind of
She probably
contracts they
could
had,
have.
but you'd suspect it'd be really interesting to see what the contracts would have been, whether it was how long the commitment was. Is it a lifelong commitment? Is it yearly? Is it yeah? How do they work, or is it per yeah? So it'd be really interesting to see what that was.
Very interesting.
Mm.
But Marlon's very confused. He tells Meryl that it'll all be okay. We're gonna take a quick break for an intermission, and I'll come right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the intermission. I hope you're enjoying this episode of The Truman Show with Adam along as the guest. I know I'm having a blast during this conversation in the past, but I just wanted to pop in real quick. Thank you all so much for all the support that you give the show. It really does mean a lot. If you want to continue support and gain access to bonus content, I do watch other films sometimes in my free time. I post short little reviews, whether they're voice notes or just a quick little video of what I think of a film just when I watch it. In general, or like TV shows, things like that. You can get access to my notes and other types of fun bonus content over at patreon.com/coopforge. And you do not only get bonus content for post finale, but if you sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/coopforge, co_opforge, then you also get access to bonus content from the other shows. Now, the other shows that I alluded to, if you are following us on YouTube, you see that there are two other shows. One of them is called Seattle Across the Pond, which the next episode should be out in about 24 hours from when this one should be posted. Within 24 hours, depending on when you're listening to this, it might already be out. That one is all about Seattle sports. I'm hosted with my friend Eric. Eric comes in and we chat Seattle sports, what's happening on in the world of sports in Seattle. It's a fun time. That one's every other week. And you can also listen to Flip the Scripts, which is co-hosted with my previous guest Stephen Nyman, and we are looking at adaptations and the world of adaptations. So looking at some of our favorite books to the film or TV adaptation that has come out for that. So we started with the Percy Jackson series, started with The Lightning Thief, and those episodes are completely out. You can listen to them anywhere. And then starting this Friday, if you're listening to this when it comes out, then starting this Friday, we have shows for the Sea of Monsters, and we are reviewing the bad films from 2010 and 2012. But be sure, check out those two shows. They're called Seattle Across the Pond and Flip the Scripts, and it really does help us out. Be sure to follow us on social media, talk about us on social media. It really does help. You can follow Co-op Forge at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE, and on any of the social medias, including TikTok, and you can follow Post Finale, the show, this one specifically, at Post Finale Pod on whatever social media you're looking at, except for TikTok. For TikTok, we only have the Co-op Forge TikTok, so CO_OPFORGE. Thank you to anyone who talks about us, shares the show with a friend. It really does mean a lot. Leave a rating, leave a review, leave a like, or hit subscribe if you're listening on YouTube or whatever podcast app. It really, really does help out. So thank you all so much. And let's get back to this episode. So we're now, Meryll's out of the picture. And, well, not out of the picture, but we've moved on from that scene. Great scene overall, as we were saying that entire time. But we're now out by the water, and Truman is just sitting with Marlon, and he reveals to Marlon that he isn't sure what to think anymore, and that he may be losing his mind, but it feels like the whole world revolves around him somehow. And Marlon, again, to his credit, in this scene, Marlon is still a really good friend. Yes, it's fabricated, but like, you truly believe that he is a good friend. So Marlon says, that's a lot of world for one man. And are you sure that it isn't wishful thinking? And, who hasn't wished that this is, how the world actually works for oneself? Like, who hasn't sat on John and had an imaginary interview on Sea Haven tonight? Which is where I had a question for you, Is there a slang term for like the toilet in Australia?
There is, yeah. There's the dunny. The dunny is usually
Okay.
the one, or we do say the loo, which is British. There's quite a few things in Australia that are British isms. But yeah,
Britishisms.
but the dunny is one that we say. Yeah, going to the dunny.
The dunny.
I don't know where it comes from. I
Okay.
don't know the etymology of it, but yeah, just the dunny.
Look, it's not like I know why people here call it the John. I'm like, did someone named John at some
Yeah,
point really
builders.
piss someone off?
Yeah, or he just John did a massive dump one time, and then they're like, "We need to rename this the John."
We need to rename this to the John.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what the etymology is of why people call it the John, but it's called the John sometimes. I mean, most people call it a restroom or a toilet. So,
It's the same with the dunny.
um,
Like, not often are people calling it the dunny, but some people will say that. Yeah,
yeah, okay, cool.
yeah,
But Marlon says, who hasn't wanted to be somebody? Which is a true sentiment. Like, people definitely sit and daydream and, sometimes think, like, what if this is the case, right? And I'm sure people in any aspect of where they are in life, they have their own daydream of what if, that's the way that it was,
mm.
right? What if this worked? I don't necessarily know what it is for you as listeners, but I'm sure that everyone has some type of daydream that they wish something was slightly different, but it isn't. And that's okay. Like, that's part of being human. So
Apparently,
he
there's
makes a
actually
very
a
valid
thing
point.
called an informal term is called Truman disorder or something that they call it now. That is people that think they're on a TV show, that they're a part of a
Okay.
secret thing. I think it's called, yeah, having Truman or Truman syndrome or something like that. Uh, so it's
Interesting.
becoming an actual thing where people really believe they are part of this secret TV show. Uh, and
Okay.
yeah, so if that is you,
I mean, we were we
seek
were
medical
we
help
were joking
immediately.
about that. We were joking about that in the last episode, that my life is just actually being filmed and everyone's in on it. And I was just
Yeah,
like, well, if it is,
go get
I
some help,
struggle.
buddy.
But we move. Go get some help. So Truman says that this is different. It feels like everybody's in on it. And Marlon has the look like he knows that he can't stop this for much longer, but he needs to be a good friend. And it almost feels like he knows that this is going to end soon, kind of deal. And Marlon then brings up, like, look, we've been best friends since we were 7, so 23 years now.
Yeah.
And it's the only way that either of them made it through school was cheating off of the other's test papers. And I was like, well, more like Marlon cheated off of Truman based on the earlier scene, but sure. And Marlon says that, they were identical, but he always felt safe knowing that, because whatever the answers were, they were either right together or they were wrong together. And then Marlon asks if Truman remembers when they stayed up all night in the tent because Truman wanted to play North Pole. He ended up getting pneumonia. Truman starts to laugh. Marlon was out of school for a month. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, Marlon might not have actually been sick, but it might have been a thing of like, hey, Marlon, like, you're going to get a month off from doing the show so that, like, you can, just live a little bit of a normal life a little bit, in the real world a little bit. And this is where I was like, come on, Marlon, be a good friend. Tell him the truth.
Mm.
Do it. Break free from this vicious cycle. He doesn't. So Marlon says that Truman is the closest thing he's ever had to a brother. And he knows that things haven't always worked out for either of them like they dreamed that they would, and knows like everything might feel like it's slipping away, but you don't know what to believe. So he's looking for answers somewhere else. And that's when we see the shot of Kristoff, and he is feeding Marlon the lines that he needs to say. And that's there in all caps. I was like, God damn it. Because I was
Yeah, that's
really
the
hoping
moment
that
you
this was
realize how.
Marlon just being a good friend.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because it really, you're just thinking, wow, this guy's, he's awesome. He does care about him, but then yeah, you get the insight. You're like, I thought, well, what's great about all these scenes is you're just seeing the different levels of the production to create Sea Haven.
Hmm.
You're just slowly revealed more and more layers as an audience until, whoa, it's even bigger than I thought it was. It's like, it's not that
Yeah,
these
I mean
people are acting,
it's
it's like,
massive.
yeah. And so it just keeps getting bigger and
Yeah,
bigger. Apparently the guy that plays Thingo just brave faded.
Christoph
No, his friend, Marlon.
Marlon.
Yeah, the actor said that he played it as though he created him as having this really major issue, and he was really conflicted about his role in the show and everything. So I think that was kind of interesting. The sort of backstory of the character that he created.
Yeah, yeah. Shout
Yeah.
out to Noah Emmerich. He's the actor who played him. I first saw him in White Collar, which is one of my favorite TV shows.
Okay.
So, yeah, yeah, he's in White Collar, plays a pretty big role, and that's all I'll say in case anyone wants to see White Collar and see what he does. But great show, fantastic show, can recommend. See, I do watch things, just not things that people assume that I
Yeah.
do. So Marlon is then given the line, and it's the last thing I would ever do is lie to you. And I was like, Marlon, come on, now is your time. Break free from the script. If you truly care about him, do it now. Like, I'm still holding out hope that Marlon's going to break free. And I was like, to hell with the production. Care for your brother. You grew up with him. Even if it is fake, you grew up with him. Like, do it. He doesn't. So Truman looks suspicious about this line for some reason. And Marlon points out that if everybody is in on it, then he'd have to be on it too. And Marlon says that he isn't in on it because there's no it to be in on. He is playing his part incredibly well. So, like, credit to him. I'm just pissed at Marlon. So, I'm like,
Yeah.
you should have broken free, but you didn't.
It's a really
So,
heartbreaking scene. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I wanted Marlon to be the one to just be like, "No, man, like go, like get out of here, go. Like I'll help you break out," or like slip him a note or something of like, "I'll help you break out. Like do this. Like meet me here at this time. Like sneak out. Like figure something out." I wanted him to be there for him, but he just. We'll find out if that happens, but that's what I'm hoping is like I'm still holding out hope for Marlon. I'm still holding out hope for Marlon at this point as I'm watching it. I don't want him to be the reason that Truman is sad.
Mm.
But Truman was right about one thing. This all started when he thought he saw his dad. Marlon found his dad, and apparently that's why he came by tonight. And Marlon is sure that he's got quite the story to tell. So they get a shot of Truman seeing his dad. Everyone is engulfed. Everyone's like watching in the real world. Everyone's like, oh my God. And for the first time, we truly see how much Kristoff is really pulling the strings.
Mm.
Like we just saw him feeding the lines, but how much he's changing the cameras, how he knows which angle, which time. So, like, this is what I have to say about Kristoff. He has a very messed up idea. Like, this is not an okay thing to do to a human being, but he's very good at his craft, and no one can deny that he is very good at his craft.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he's a genius director for sure. I mean, to the scale of that production is enormous. I mean, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be your whole life. I
But
mean, that's why he lives in the moon. I mean, you can't do anything else. You'd just be doing this job like constantly.
this
You'd
is
have some kind of
your
structure, but
life.
yeah.
But yeah, like this is your life. And, Truman saying that he never stopped believing that dad might be alive. Dad says that, I'll make it up to you, all those years wasted. Everyone is thrilled in the production room and everyone is watching. Everyone's really happy. And again, I still don't understand why is everyone in the world okay with this? Or the majority of people in the world okay with this? This is not okay.
Well, that's the thing. It's a separated, and this was another thing that's great with this movie, which you've probably mentioned, is that because it predates reality TV. So there is it was only the next year or two that Big Brother came out, and so it was, yeah, it's really interesting to predate that kind of mindset of, oh, I'm watching other people do things. Now it's quite normal just to
Mm-hmm.
be, we can just watch these things happening to people, and we're very just kind of disassociated with what's going on because it's on a screen, or So I don't know if that's part of it. You just
Yeah,
watching, you just convince yourself that, well, that's happening over there, so whatever. Um, I don't know.
maybe.
Or they're just horrible. This world is horrible people.
Yeah, I mean, look, it just confirms that the world is a messed up place. That's all it really confirms. We knew that, but you know, we make the best of it. But the world is a messed up place. And so people are congratulating Christoph on his brilliant work. Everyone seems thrilled. Everyone that is, except for Sylvia. And we see her watching TV as Truman is drinking the Mount Nicaragua cocoa, the finest in the world. Product placement, absolutely hilarious. But that's where we're going to end this week's episode right before we get into this whole kind of revealing moments of this film where you learn so much of everything that goes into building this world and this world of Sea Haven and Truman's world. But we are about to learn so much. But that's where we're ending this one on a beautiful little cliffhanger. I mean, I've seen the film at this point, but you
That's
know,
good.
it's that's where we're gonna end it. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I really didn't know what to think. I was like, please tell me that this isn't ending. I am still holding out hope at this point that Truman is going to break free. I don't think anymore that people from the real world are really going to be able to, help him. I
Mm.
don't think that's gonna be a possibility, but I do think that Truman is gonna be able to break free and get out of here and get out of Sea Haven. I do think that that is still how the film is gonna end. I'm not sure how he's going to break free because, like, we saw his attempt earlier and it didn't go very well. So I don't think driving out of town is gonna be an option anymore.
So, but you have seen it. You have seen the whole film, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, now I have,
Okay.
but like as I
As
was
you're
watching that,
watching, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Because he only really has this
I
one
didn't
connection
know,
with the outside world, which is Sylvia, or
which is
or is
Sylvia.
who I call the Eyes. But yeah,
Okay.
she's just one kind of connection that he has to out there, and that the whole impetus
Hmm.
to try and get to Fiji and everything. And she's a lot of
Try to get to
big
Fiji. Try
part
to
of the
get out
reason
of
for
the
him trying to
world.
get out. So
Hmm.
yeah, it is. It is a what? Yeah, what's he going to do? How's it going to work? Yeah, you're just thinking, what's the possible
Now I
way he's going
don't.
to get out?
Yeah, I have no idea how he's gonna get out of here. Because if driving isn't an option, he doesn't know how to fly a plane.
Or
I
in the
don't
boat
know.
thing,
Maybe
yeah,
this.
it's called.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a boat, but I don't think it's gonna be a boat
Well, the water,
because, like,
because I looked up, he had.
he's so scared of the water.
Yeah, it's called thalassophobia, and it's not.
Thalassophobia.
Yeah, it's not the scared of. It's persistent, intense fear of deep bodies of water, which of course they set up with the father thing, with
Drowning.
the setting that up with the father doing that. He's got this thing because so it's not just. I don't know what the other one is, like aquaphobia or something, which is just water, but his is more about the deep water. So it's
His is
yeah.
more about deep water
Even
than
going
it
over that
is
bridge was
just.
why I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, when you think about it, usually a bridge is built to go over a deeper body of water.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, there are some times that, like, you have a bridge and, like, you're just like, why is there a bridge? And it's like, well, when it rains, the water shows up. So, like, it's not exactly like the deepest water in
Yeah.
the world, but, like, it's still dangerous enough to warrant building a bridge over.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how he's breaking off the island. I know that he will. Part of me says that it's a boat. Part of me is like he's not going to do a boat. Like, he's scared. But then with his dad now being back, maybe he's conquered his fear of boats. I don't know. I don't know how he's getting
He's
off
gonna build a big
of
rocket,
this
jump on it,
island. Yes.
and go
Okay.
yeehaw, fly
There we
into the
go.
sky.
There we go. That's how he's getting off the island. He's gonna build a rocket, yell "Yeehaw," and light it on
It's
fire,
pretty simple,
Jimmy
Ankit.
Neutron
I don't know how you
style.
didn't even think of it before. It's pretty obvious.
I really should have, shouldn't
Yeah.
I? Like, it was screaming right there. He's in insurance. Like, he obviously knows how to build a rocket. I should have known.
Yeah. Should have.
But yeah, that's where we're ending this episode. Adam, thank you so much for joining. If listeners want to find you on the internet, finding out more about shows that you're doing, different things like that, where can they do that? Where can they follow you? Find out more about you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much for having me on. It was good fun. And yeah, I imagine I'm probably pretty far away from many listeners, but you never know. So and at the moment I'm in Tasmania, doing productions and shows. So I just did the Comedy of Errors outdoors, and that was great. Went really well. But yeah, if people need to see what's coming up, you can just go to adamdeertheatre.com, and all my upcoming thingamajigs are on there. The next main thing's Page to Stage, which is my 10-minute play competition that I'm doing the second version of next year, 2024. Keep forgetting what year it is. So next year. So that'll be the next thing I'm working on. And then I plan to produce my own show, the show that you helped out on, Too Stinky to Bear, when we did the rehearsed reading in London. So I'm planning
Oh
to actually
yeah.
produce that this year. And then I will also do
Oh,
another
wonderful.
outdoor Shakespeare at the end of the year. But yeah, adamdeertheatre.com, Reindeer Productions. I'm on Facebook as well. Reindeer Productions is on Facebook. So yeah, please check it out and get in touch.
Yeah, listeners, I know a couple of you are out in the Australia area, so
Yeah,
go
you never
go
know.
check out some live theater and support some
And if you
friends.
need connections in
So it
Australia,
really does mean
yeah, if you need Melbourne or Sydney
yeah. Oh,
connections, I can help people out. So yeah, let me know.
there we go. I mean, hit Adam up. I'll try my best to leave as many of those links in the episode description as well so that they are easy for you all to find. But Adam, thank you so much for joining once again. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next week, I'll catch y'all later.